Cool. Right on.
All right. Welcome to the PARAcast. Again, I'm your host.
Take two.
Take two. I'm your host, Tomas the Voss Hernandez, repeating the same two jokes at the beginning of the show. So hopefully they're just as funny. Well, they're funny to you guys, not as funny to us. Anyways, we missed Mother's Day. I made a joke how everyone calls their mom, and then Kenny avoids calls from people he think might become moms or have been moms. So anyways, moving on from there. Joining us tonight... He believes the best Reich is yet to come. It's Robert Wyatt.
The Third Reich was great, but just wait till you see the fourth, man.
There's probably... I wonder how many people have actually tried to, like... If you probably look at it, like, do a Google search on Reichs, there'd probably be some people, like, there's probably some, like, small government here that said, like, this is the new Reich, or this is the new Reich. Or it's possible, like, they did what Adolf Hitler did with... There's a joke on YouTube, everybody. If you check that out, there's the old what is it, like? No one's named Adolf anymore, so no one wants to call anything a Reich. It's like, well, it's like the swastika is not even a like, well, it's a Nazi symbol. They adopted it, but it's like a symbol for what, like, prosperity and like well-being or something like that. If you look it up, it's a very ancient symbol. Anyways,
so we were eating an early dinner today, and I pulled up KSL, and like somebody had it was on the Jewish Center here in Salt Lake City. They'd went and put graffiti on the door. They'd scratched it into the glass, and it looked like a swastika. But when you look at it, the swastika's backwards. Everybody always gets it backwards. If you're gonna get it, do it right. But it was really funny because I showed the article to Andrea, and she's like, the swastika's not in the right direction. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I love you so much.
Yeah, this is...
I'm glad you noticed that. And she's like, it can't even be a hate crime if they can't get the swastika right.
If you can't get it right.
Yeah, how can it be a hate crime?
All right. Anyways, also joining us tonight, he's eating your food with his mouth open. It's Kenny Terry.
Hell yeah. Sharing's caring.
Sharing's caring. Buffalo Wild Wings. That's where you go do that. It's like, how much are these wings? Oh, they're $2 per wings. Let me try one of your wings. 18 wings later. I might have to get me a plate.
We had one of our employees came in. It was 2 weeks ago, and he reheated buffalo wings, and we've discovered that if you're eating them, they smell and taste great, but if you're not, they will stink up an office so dang fast. We have now instituted a policy in our office, which is no wild wings.
I just imagine when I used to deliver to one, and you'd go in the back. And the one thing about like places like Buffalo Wild Wings is like you're not going there for the subtle flavor experiences. So like even the smell of that place in the back is like, pow! Here it is. It's like that buffalo smell. Anyways, I went grocery shopping today and got some Tabasco barbecue sauce and some Buffalo Wild Wing sauce for some Arby's French fries I made, which I happen to make to perfection. But anyways, speaking of perfection, let's talk about what we did this week. I haven't really done anything. I was gonna go shoot an IDPA match, but I have like this wrist thing that's going on my wrist. It's really starting to bug me. No. Wrong hand, Robert. Anyways, so yeah, so it's
for you.
Yes. So it was really starting to bug me. So I got all my stuff ready because sometimes I wake up and it feels better, and so I was hoping to go on there, but that didn't get to happen. So we'll see. I'll just have to figure out what to do when I'm on vacation after next week, but only for a short period of time.
Which is a month.
Yeah. Well, some people call it a month. I call it 30 days. Everyone else just calls it a good time. So
all I know is you can generally figure out how replaceable you are by how long they let you go on vacation.
You say this every year. What is my thing is like, yeah, and I still get to take a month of vacation. So Kenny, how do you feel about being replaceable? Because apparently this is how like UPS. This is how like UPS works. It's like, sorry boss, I can't come in today. And they're like, the company needs you, and then it's just like, sorry boss, I delivered a box to the wrong house. You're fired. That's like any blue collar employment. It's just like, oh, okay, whatever. But we'll see what happens. I got some plans, so I find it pretty funny, and this will probably lead into what Robert wants. Is like, So I was like, okay, I kind of want a new flashlight system. I want a new light system for my gun. And so I was like, and I would like one for my wife. So I would like a red dot on my wife's gun. I would like a red dot on my gun, and like a new flashlight on both of them. And so I'm turning around. I'm looking at the new Streamlights, the TLR7As, which are like a 500 lumen light, but it's a very small light. It's a light that you could probably put on a shield or like a Glock 43. And so I'm like, that would be really cool. Let's get a couple of those and throw them on a gun, on two different guns there. And so I'm thinking about grabbing that. And then, like, I'm sitting there, like, pricing them out, putting them in an Amazon cart. And then somebody sends me a picture on the old Telegram app and tells me what a dream it is to shoot a gun, a 45-ounce gun with an optic. Then with the Streamlight TLR1, which is the not even, I don't even think that's one's an HL. Is it, Robert? Is it an HL or is it a standard?
Hang on, let me. Oh man,
because I know,
like, do my exercise to lift this thing. This would be a TLR1 HL.
Oh, HL.
Thank
okay.
you very much.
So like there's people who have bought like a TLR1, like Kenny Platt bought a TLR1, which is like maybe 200 lumens, so it's not like the brightest light. And then
wait, he only got a TLR1?
Well, he's not exactly looking for the tactical purposes of the light, Robert.
So that's what poverty must be like.
It's actually the difference of like $30 between the prices. But his, I think, actually works. I don't know if he's upgraded it to the what you've upgraded it to. So talk to us about your piece of ridiculousness.
So I was at the match yesterday, and I was shooting production, and I happened to be there with a friend, Kevin Isaac. Kevin Isaac makes tungsten products, and among the tungsten products that he made was 2 batteries that go in this light here, and yet still manages to make the light work. So it's completely legal in USPSA, huzzah! But it unfortunately makes the gun weigh, with the brass grips that I have on here, and the light, which weighs 9 1/4 ounces. It makes the gun weigh 3 pounds 8 1/4 ounce. And you're like, okay, that's too heavy.
4
and I'm like, I would agree.
Pound firearm.
Yeah, that's unloaded too. So I would normally agree with that, but we went and shot it, and it's like shooting an open gun. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so awesome. But like you shoot the gun, and the dot's just like barely moving. You're like, yeah, I can see how somebody would want to play this. And it's really funny because, so Kevin makes these things.
Funny and like ha-ha, or funny it's like we can only laugh as the world decays around us. Which one, Robert? Which one?
It really is the latter. Because Kevin, I mean, he flat out admits, he's like, this is stupid for USPSA to have made this rule, but they did. And so why would I not take advantage of the rules as they built them? I mean,
yeah.
you can stand on like, you know, that moral superiority all you want, but I mean, you guys got to shoot this. It's really disgusting because the gun is just, it's what I was telling you, Kenny. It's like, it feels like you're cheating.
It's not illegal to call your kid stupid, Kenny. Did you know this? And so since it's legal to call your kid stupid, you should get away with it as much as possible. What's up with this moral high ground everyone's talking about? Suckers!
How was your dignity when you came home from it?
Oh, I've long since lost that. I mean, you know, those late nights in truck stops trying to pay for those Shadow 2 bills. It's just, yeah, you just give up at that point.
Thought one of those lot lizards looked familiar.
But no, it's really cool. So he let me borrow a pair of them, and I threw them on, and we just I brought them home. We were playing with them, and I have this. So a long time ago, I picked up this. It was Blackhawk. I know, Blackhawk holsters, but Blackhawk made this holster called the the Omnivore, which had a pretty cool concept where if you took and you put a TLR1 and attached it to the rail of the gun, the holster would actually attach to the light itself, and it would lock in.
I don't
like
remember
that.
which one came out first. I think the Omnivore came out before like the Philster Floodlights because they essentially had the same idea with like a Surefire
Yeah.
X300. But yeah,
So it like, I mean, it actually locks in, and it's got this. So you actually press the button
thumb brake.
and
Yeah.
the thumb brake, and it comes off. And I bought this a long time ago because I was gonna take it to a 3-gun match, and I had my Shadow, and there was no other way to. I just didn't have another way
Yeah.
to put a locking holster at the time. So I bought it and I played with it, and I really liked it. It works. It works for its intended purpose. It's not all slick and fast, but it works. It works great. And the beauty of it is you can then basically attach that light to any other gun out there that has a rail, and you're off to the races. And since it works with the Boss, that Boss holster, the Y mount thing, you can attach that to the holster itself, and then you're good to go. And so I think we'll play with it a little bit and just see it. I don't know that it's something I really am going to do long term because it is really effing heavy, and you can feel that thing just like pulling on your left side, just like, okay, the day's getting really long here, folks. I'm kind of done.
Robert's gonna start bagging after every stage.
I'm actually thinking that. So I figure what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna walk up to every stage, and I'm gonna hand the RO the bag as soon as he gives me the make ready, and then just hang on to those till we're done. We'll get to the done, and I'll just put it in the bag, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
But it really does add a lot of weight to the gun, but it's not the most ideal thing. But when you shoot it, and you guys got to come shoot it, it's really fun.
So
Have you tried it on your production guns?
No, I just
Any
had
iron-sighted gun?
no. I was actually thinking that we took it into the other bay, and we shot the Beretta, and he let me shoot his Canic, which is really nice. But the Shadow 1, that's the one that's what I have it on right now. That's the one that really, really made the difference. And so I suspect if you put it on my normal production gun, it would probably be a very similar feel. But
how does the tungsten batteries? How do these actually work?
oh, here I actually
It's just
start
a sleeve that goes over a smaller battery, right?
It literally is just that, yeah. And so you take, see if I can pull it apart really quick. But you undo it, and there's a plastic sleeve that. So let's see if you can see it in the picture here. So this black bit is just plastic, and right here, that's actually the battery. And then I didn't know this. I mean, tungsten's conductive, and so there's the kind of that little nipple thing for the other end of a normal battery. And if you want to replace them, you just press on the plastic, and there it comes out. And it takes a what is it? A CR1620.
So a watch battery, pretty much.
Yeah.
You just throw a watch battery
tiny
in there
battery
behind it.
And it works great. And so you show up to nationals with your ridiculously heavy gun, and I guess in this case you go up to CMP, you show them your CMP card, and then you hand them your man card because you're gonna shoot with a ridiculously heavy gun, and you're good to go.
How much does that weigh, Rob? Your CZ?
All in, this gun weighs 56 ounces.
Oh, good. We're getting towards the limit. Thank God. We only
I'll wear my open gun when we're done here, but I'm pretty certain that's lighter than my open gun.
Oh, I would not even bet against that. I mean, it sucks, right? I mean, it's stupid that USPSA made this dumb rule, and now people are literally gaming it out. That's what we expected they do.
Yeah,
we knew they were
going to
do
happen.
And they did it because fully, I'm actually convinced that they made this rule change not because there's any value in it, but because they actually wanted to try and dunk on IDPA. And IDPA like, oh, you can't have all these things, and then USPSA is like, oh, well, we can. I think that was the only reason they actually wanted to do it. Then they came up with some excuse to be like, oh, no, I mean, there's totally Timmies who are out there, and they're like, we can't shoot with this in our division, so we're not going to come play.
Well,
BS.
The one thing is, like, you could say like this, like all like the Timmies showing up or whatever like that, or guys showing up with like a carry gear, right? It was like we would like them to be able to shoot production with what the carry gear is. And instead of sitting there and making like, okay, like people shoot with lights on. So instead of like putting some sort of caveat on having the light, they just said, well, as long as it's a light and it's under 60 ounces. And so it's like it's gotten even farther away from what carry gear actually is. Because the trend in lights has been smaller light, less of a footprint. The tendency with holsters has been, an appendix holster, but nothing's been out there that it's like, give me the biggest light possible and then let me carry an appendix, because no one's going to carry appendix. It should have literally been like, okay, you can shoot carry gear. If you want to have a light, then you got to shoot appendix or something like that. It's just, oh.
I firmly believe that Dave Blanton had the best solution for this whole situation when he said, if you want to run a light, run a light. If you want to do appendix and stuff like that or whatever, that's fine. Level 1 only. You would have solved every single problem before it ever became a problem if you simply had done that. You would have given the Timmies an inroad, which was a BS argument in the first place, but you would have at least given a nod to that idea. But Blanton he hit the nail on the head. Level 1 only, call it a day. And so, but that was that. Then, was it USPSA last week? They had their nationals, and you guys heard about JJ getting
popper fracked.
Yeah. Did you guys see the video on that? Yeah. So apparently, as the story goes, like he shot that thing. The range master comes over, goes over, fine. That's what it is. But the competitor after him, I think it was Jared Fox, got up there. He shot it, center punched it. Doesn't go down. The RM's still there. He comes over and he's like, "Yeah, you guys need to fix this thing." And Jared, you get a reshoot. But JJ didn't.
No idea who the RM was?
No.
I mean, it sounds like a terrible call Troy would make, so it's probably who it was. But
but the funny thing about it was, if you look at the scores, who's at Step was telling me that if you had simply changed a D to a C for JJ, he would have won nationals. It was that close. And so to lose because of a crappy popper situation, which we keep seeming to happen.
Well, that's kind of a hard deal. I mean, I don't know if the stage had problems with that popper consistently, or if JJ was the first guy on the popper, because like that's just the rule. I mean, if you go up there and popper doesn't go down, the RM goes up there and shoots it, and then it falls down, and then the next guy goes up and has the same situation, and then he gives the guy the reshoot. That's just a bad call. But without that bad call, that would have just been if the second shooter didn't have the same situation, it would have been no controversy, correct? Right? Because it's just a popper that stays up.
It's just a popper that stays up. But it does start to call into question the rules that we have surrounding poppers. And I was kind of thinking about this a little bit. And I'm like, I have this thought. And if we change the rules to say that the poppers must fall, and if you shoot the popper and it's a full hit, it's a full diameter hit inside the calibration zone, and it doesn't fall, you have two options. You can either accept it as not having fallen, or you can challenge it. But if you challenge it, then you immediately have to go to chrono, and if you pass chrono, then it's an automatic reshoot on the stage.
No, I was just thinking the chrono issue is like because if you're a major match and you're painting and you can for one, can you determine where it was hit? Yes. Was it in the calibration zone? Yes. Okay, does competitors' ammunition pass chrono? Like, you don't even need to, like...
And if that's the case,
that's reshoot. It's like taking the pickle jar that's you've been working on for like 20 minutes, then handing it to somebody else, and they just pop the top off. That's kind of like our rules with the damn poppers. It's just like, okay, and then like a breeze comes by, like...
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the funny thing. Like, I remember... when we very first had Farley's poppers, we have the forward-falling poppers, and by today's standards, I would make the argument they're probably the most reliable poppers out there on the market. I mean, basically, if you set those things up correctly, God and all of his angels can't stop those things from falling when they're hit. Yeah. On the flip side, if they're not adjusted properly, like if the ROs aren't maintaining their equipment like they're supposed to do on every stage, which is what you should really hope is going to happen at a nationals level match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other part too is... Go ahead, Kenny.
I'm curious, Robert, why do you think they should have to go to chrono if they set or punch it afterwards?
If they
I
shoot,
think it should be
if they
straight up,
shoot
like, if it's in the calibration zone, reshoot. And because if they don't pass chrono later in the match, there's already rules in.
Well, I
place
think.
What if they've already passed chrono?
Then they pass chrono.
Or
I don't
they
think
have
you should keep making them shoot chrono over and over because that's going to create a problem at chrono.
Well, I would say this. The one issue is like, okay, so if you were going to cheat at a USPSA match by shooting lighter, less than power factor ammunition, it's like you kind of know the ammunition you're going to give to chrono. I mean, no one's that dumb. And so it's like, if you hit something in the calibration zone, then the next possible thing would be, does the ammunition make power factor? And if they go, are you going to challenge it? And then you say yes, then the RO takes the magazine out of the pistol. Hand me your magazine. They clear the one out of the chamber, and then the RO, chain of custody, make sure that magazine goes to chrono to make sure that magazine has the enough.
That's what I'm saying, because then the shooter has to go to chrono, then the gun has to go to chrono, and you're just going to create a backlog at chrono. Like, if they pass chrono once, just be done with it. People, like, a popper should be set. What is the power factor you're supposed to shoot a popper with? 105 power factor?
115 to 120, I think.
I thought it was like, even if it's that low, nobody's cheating that fucking bad. That's what kind of annoyed me about this. Everybody posting like a screenshot of JJ's chrono.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He made chrono. What does it matter how close he was? He made chrono. The popper should have went down.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I agree with you, Kenny. I do. Everything you're saying, I agree with. I think my thought towards having them go to chrono is a nod towards the idea that not everybody is going to be trying to field their best ammo, and it has happened in the past where you had people that have gone through chrono and their chrono's coming in at 140, and then all of a sudden they're having plates and poppers that are like just barely falling over, and they're like, okay, do you want to go to chrono? He's like, no, I'll just take his miss.
Well, so, I get what you're saying, Rob.
It's hard.
At the same time, I've seen chronos mess up. So does this guy all of a sudden go to the very front of chrono now, or does he wait for the next squad? So then
I guess he would have
loses a resetter. That's what I'm saying. I think you cause a problem at chrono.
Well,
I don't think there's any perfect solution. I really don't. But to me, and my thought is not fully thought out. Okay, it's something that I've been thinking about. It's a direction that I've gone. I'm willing to be wrong on it, and I'm more than willing to come back and say, okay, here's a better solution. But right now, the reason that I'm thinking still send them the chrono is just the idea that if the popper doesn't go down and it's a full diameter hit inside of the calibration zone, at least then we're acknowledging that we think this thing should have gone down. And I feel strongly enough about it to actually back it up with ammunition that is off my belt and going into chrono with.
There just has to be another solution of verifying that the shooter has done his part to drive over the popper, other than shoot the same thing again.
Yeah. But you are right, though.
Like, mechanically how a popper works, once they hit it, you've probably already jarred it free or whatever from the reason it didn't fall. Like, I always thought the immediately shooting again thing has always been stupid, especially on a rear faller.
Well, it's just like,
and that was actually the problem that with when we had Farley's initially, was because the people did not know how to properly set it. And
the arm moved a little bit, so when you shot it again, it fell. Yeah.
Yeah, let me take one tiny step back on that. It is not Farley's fault. Farley built a very good system, and I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm blaming Farley on it, because mistakes were made. But they were good intentioned, and it wasn't something that anybody tried to like screw anybody over. Whenever you have a new product, you're always going to have potential issues. Farley went back. There's actually a version 2 of it. I think maybe even version 3 now, where he's actually gone through it and he's tried to design a product that is darn near idiot-proof. Because once they're set, a 22. I mean, I've actually done it. A 22 will take those things over.
Yeah.
And that's how reliable they are now. But like the stuff that was used at Nationals, it's these from a company who's otherwise a good company. But if they're not maintained. I am trying to not say names.
I know.
Okay, but they are not well maintained, and they don't fall over, and you have ROs that, bless their heart, some of the ROs at Nationals, they're just trash. And I say that knowing full well that I've been an RO at these major matches and stuff like this. But bless their heart, they shouldn't be there. They should be like, honestly, I would probably say a quarter of the ROs, they would do the sport better if they just stayed at the Golden Corral instead of showing up at the match.
Well,
That's a bold statement, Bobby.
You get what the people that would show up. But if the rule book was a little bit more clear and the solution was not shoot it again, I think you'd have a whole lot better situation. The other thing is, like, congratulations on Niels for winning production. How good did that turn out for freaking Koenig? How good did that turn out for those guys? Like, I remember sitting on a toilet at the Sundance Resort as I saw the news scrolling through Instagram that he had signed with Koenig, and I was just like, well, that's different. And then now it's like, 2 years later, they have a national championship with their firearms. So,
Niels has always been a good competitor.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always been solid. He puts out high performance. Let's be honest, he's actually a really decent person.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that says a lot all on its own. I mean, hell, he's with Jessica, so at least he has some taste. or maybe she has a lack of taste. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how that goes. But no, it's just, I mean, he's a great person, and for him to win, hats off to him. And it's always kind of weird, where you're like, this thing that happened over here to JJ or to whoever, I've always wondered, like, does that kind of like take away from the win?
No. So that's another thing everybody like saying, oh, JJ would have won this, JJ would have won that. Well, 3 stages left, Nils gives up 20 match points. Like, well, if Nils didn't do that, he would have won by a landslide. I mean, there's always, woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Well, it's not only that.
JJ, certainly it sucks for JJ. Nils still did what needed to be done.
Yeah, well, the other part is, too, is like, Nils gives us some points. Nobody ate enough of the gap that he left behind to win.
Well, the funny thing is, like, JJ, even if I'm not mistaken, didn't he admit it on Instagram that after he got popper screwed, he pushed and won the next couple stages. So if he didn't get popper screwed, would he have pushed on the next couple stages? I mean, there's always this shoulda, woulda, coulda. Nils won it fair. Like, at the end of the day, that's it.
And that's, I think you're right. I think you're right. There's always that part of my brain that kind of wonders that game. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you can play that game until the cows come home, but if you woulda, then you did. Then you should have. So
it's that
pretty much that
2011 Indianapolis 500. Where I think it was Will Powers. He's like the rookie, and he's on like the last lap when he's coming around the last turn, and he gets a lot of tire debris, and he slides into the wall. And then a guy, Dan, what was his name? Oh hell, what was his name? Dan Weldon? Is it Weldon? Anyways, he's a journeyman Indy driver, and then he drives past him and wins the Indianapolis 500 for the first time. And then, like 2 months later, that guy who won the Indianapolis 500 is dead in an Indianapolis 500 race, in an Indy race. Too many cars on the track. His car goes up, flips over, and like he's dead. And so it's like one guy could have won, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. It's like that's the reason we have the competition. I mean, it's like everyone. If in production C's counted for 4 points, I would have won that year. It's like they don't. Anyway,
and that's the thing, right? I mean, there's always that danger in playing that what if game, because you can do it in practice score competitor, and it's like, what are you really doing?
Yeah,
you're just making yourself feel bad.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot of that stuff, like, if you can cut the track by 2 tires, but if 3 tires go off the track, then you get a penalty. It's just like, well, I never cut the track with my 2 tires. Well, the guy who won did. It's the rules are there. We all play within the rules, and some guys win. So if you like to play in the rules, head on over to gallantbullets.com, where you can get some bullets to play within those rules. Head over to gallantbullets.com, use promo code PUPRO10 to save 10% off your first order. And you can hang that Blackhawk Omnivore with freaking ungodly amounts of weight, 4 pounds of blaster on your hip, and hang it off a Dominate defense belt.
I will say, like, that's like literally the only thing that's keeping that holster from pulling the gun down is that steel channel inside there that makes it all rigid.
Yeah, well, it's just like, He's gonna have to come with like not even like a full set of suspenders that hook onto the belt, but like a sash, just like a cross sash that goes from your left shoulder down to the right side of the belt where the gun is, or for you, Robert, vice versa, just to keep the damn thing up. But anyways, Dominate Defense. Promo code PARA10. The TrevorGate.
So apparently at Nationals, so the rumor is that the president of USPSA almost got into a fisticuffs with a paid competitor in front of a sponsor.
Well,
my question is, does this surprise anybody?
That's exactly.
I'm surprised. Actually, I'm surprised it took 6 years.
I know, right?
Well, just because YouTube doesn't appreciate the word. Didn't he call somebody a block of wood? It's not really a block of wood, as it would be like a cylindrical piece of a cut wood that you put on the fire. Some places call those, what do they call them? Something like that. Anyway, he called somebody a block of wood like a couple of years ago, didn't he? So
all I'm saying is,
at least we did it in front of a sponsor. I mean, what if we just did it within our own like business and like didn't have anyone else watch?
That's the thing. Like, if it's true, it's like, thanks for bringing a lot of disrepute to the organization there. The same thing that you like bounced a lot of other people out for. Well, that's awkward.
Well,
we're probably going to get our USPSA memberships canceled now.
Ha! Joke's on them. Mine's been expired for 5 months.
Take that,
well, at least if it got crazy, they can at least beat each other with their 57-ounce pistols.
That's right.
So anyway, head on over to telegram.com. You get not telegram.com. Download the app Telegram. We got a PARAcast place where you can post, and where we post for questions, you can ask us them there. And patreon.com. $1 a month gets you a longer, uncensored version of the show when possible. Robert.
From Mr. Alex Mansfeld, with all the new rule changes, how do people still manage to get bumped to open at low cap nats? I saw that.
That's got to be the.
It went overweight.
If you get bumped to open, you're dumb.
Well, I bet some poor probably had a bull barrel single stack, which that's too much. Can't have a bull barrel single stack.
Kenny, we gotta keep the rules intact. Okay, we can't let these equipment rules just go anywhere they want. Obviously, you can't have a bull barrel.
Yeah. No, a bull barrel gives you way too much weight. It gives way more weight than that light Robert has. That's now legal.
Yeah. I mean,
what's
that's just cheating at this point. I mean,
what's the excuse now? What's the excuse for not letting like a bull
cats living together at this point?
When they changed all the single stack rules, I was like, but we still can't have a bull barrel. That's
This makes no sense. Well, it's because the USPSA presidency couldn't figure out how to monetize it.
Well, yeah, that's the entire thing about the the Springfield Armory TRP line, is you have the tactical model which has the 5-inch bull barrel and rail, and then because Rob Latham wanted an off the shelf kind of like good quality 1911 you can shoot in USPSA and IDPA, the non-rail TRP has a standard bushing. So,
speaking of which, did you guys see kind of all what went on with Elias?
I heard he had a lot of malfunctions.
Yeah, he had all those malfunctions. I think he went through 3 guns at that match. He had one time he went one of the guns went full auto. He had one that wasn't going into battery, so he increased the recoil spring. He had hammer follow. The dude still came in. He almost won the thing.
Yeah.
And I know, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But still, that's pretty amazing.
That's some sear and leaf spring trouble. If you like, that's kind of sounds what that is. It's just like.
That's the thing. It's like after the second gun, why didn't you just drive over to the local Sportsman's in Talladega and be like, "Hi, I'd like a 1911. Which one? I don't care."
Springfield Armory full size. Anything resembling that? Saying, what do you got? A Kimber?
This TRP. No. It's got a bull barrel.
That's cute.
And you know what's also amazing about that, Rob?
Uh-huh.
Is that Latham still won nationals after 40 years of shooting. It was 40, right? Or was it 30?
Absolutely.
Either way, This
Man,
long
the
in it, he's still winning that.
Yeah, the old Haas has got it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that's
And
what
again, I take nothing away from Rob Latham. There's no hate or shade or anything on that.
Yeah.
That's amazing that he still is competitive this long in the game. That's how good he actually is.
No, when I looked at him, I was like, it's amazing he won, and it's amazing Elias was so close with what he had to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Rob Latham had shooting videos on VHS when VHS was new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remember that. Just remember that. Go on YouTube and you can find like 1986 like Rob Latham in a Wilson Combat jersey doing a shooting video.
Oh man.
Yeah, it wasn't the one they saying this was his 40th Nationals, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Jeez. All right, from Ryan, if USPSA wanted to make some rule changes that actually mattered, what should they do about poppers, if anything? I think we sort of talked about this.
Yeah, the chronograph, I think, would be the... Well, here's another thought. Could you... Well, no, I don't think that would be work. If you could witness mark the poppers in some way that you could show some movement, but if they're too forward... if the problem is the weight is normally too far forward, that something would not have the impact on it. So I wonder what you could do as far as...
Can we just copy IPSC's rules?
Tell me their rules.
I believe if it's in the calibration zone, it's a reshoot.
That's it?
Yeah. That's
Wait a minute. Seriously? That's really it?
pretty certain. Like, if you did your job right, shot it in the calibration zone.
It's a reshoot.
Wait a minute. If they're doing this and it's a working model, why are we not copying this?
Because we're better than IPSC and we can't copy them on anything.
Yeah, my gosh.
Did you not learn this already, Rob?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, well, if
we
you shoot high or
we
low,
can get into
shoot in the
fisticuffs
calibration
with
zone.
sponsors. I mean, that's
Well,
how we are.
you could almost... Well, the other part is, too, is, like, you could almost, like, well, it's like, what's calibration, when you have, like, the splash of the bullet is, like... It's like, we'll just put a stencil line across the bottom of the circle part there. Put a stencil line across. Hit above the stencil line anywhere, edge hit or anything, good. Below that, not good. Move on.
We had somebody at the match yesterday. They edge hit the popper, and it didn't fall, and so they took a mic on it. But I walked over and I looked at it, and because I was looking for kind of that telltale sign of the popper starting to go back and then the pin dropping out and then not really, kind of like it happened back in the old days, which it never happens anymore. But you look just to be on the safe side, and it's like, nah, he just edge hit that thing. And so I think that's why you have to have that full diameter hit.
Yeah.
It really does have to be that.
Well, the one thing is about, like, especially when you get to the edge, is like, what do you consider a full diameter hit on steel?
It's pretty obvious. You can.
If you're painting it every time, it's obvious what a full diameter hit was.
I mean, heck, you could even put a card on there and be like, this was obviously a full diameter hit. When it gets to the edge and you're hanging half of it off the edge or even 3/4 of it on the steel, but there's still little bits going off. Heck, 3/4 would probably still drive it over. But no, it's pretty obvious. Gosh, I didn't know that, Kenny. If that's really what the rule is, there is no reason in the world for us not to change the rules and just copy them, because that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you shoot it high or low out of the calibration zone, that's on you. Shoot it better.
Yeah.
But if you do your job and punch in the calibration zone,
automatic reshoot.
Maybe we should just
Yeah,
go
I like
back.
that.
Maybe with, like, the issues we have with, like, a president and a rule book and not a lot of support from the organization, maybe there should be some of us who just adopt IPSC and just have an IPSC club.
I'm down for that.
Like,
I'm totally okay with that.
You 15-round production guys, you win. Fine, we'll do it. We'll just have the IPSC club, and you guys can come shoot that. Because IPSC's 15-round production, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can also have a race holster in
I'm
production.
I'm still not cool with the 15-round in production, but that's neither here nor
At
there.
this point, I'll take it, Robert. At this point, it's like being in the middle of a divorce, and like they got the house, half your
I'll tell you
retirement. What are the costs?
Give me all of IPSC's rules and IPSC stage designs with their 3-2-1 format, and I will give you 15-round production.
I think at this point it's the better of the sports, maybe rule wise.
You know what we should do? Just if there's a calibrate, for you guys, if you ever have to shoot a popper for calibration, just shoot it in the head. This is
I
why I
like
don't do
the way you
competitions no more. People got sick of me just shooting them in the head.
Again from Alex Mansfield. If any of you were to seek out a training course for a competition shooting, who would you take it from and why?
Sorry, I have ice in my mouth. Go, someone else go.
Probably JJ.
JJ would be good.
I don't know. That's a hard question because I've taken from so many people, and maybe I say JJ because I haven't taken one from him. But
well, Charlie Perez seems to do a pretty damn good job.
I've taken a lot of his.
I would personally avoid at this point in my career. I would avoid taking a class, and I would find a way to get one-on-one training, because most classes that you're going to get these days, you're going to be tailored towards the gamut of people that are showing up. And I would rather pay a little bit more money and have that one day a very individualized, basically eyes on what I'm doing. I think that I would get better returns doing that than anything. But at a bare minimum, like an absolute bare minimum, I would want to take a class from somebody who's been to nationals in at least like the last 2 years. I think if you haven't done it in the last 2 years, you're kind of out of date.
Well, and that's always the problem, is you can find people who are fantastic shooters but may not be the best instructors.
Yeah.
So that would be
to be fair, you can also find people who are not the best shooters but are fantastic instructors. Sometimes that does happen.
Well, and then you can find people who are fantastic instructors and are in like the 90, like this is where I kind of consider like Charlie Perez is like. Charlie Perez is like in the high, like if you look at USPSA Grandmasters, he's like in the 90th percentile of those guys. Like he's a really good master, but he's a fantastic teacher. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, well, what could you do to put yourself over the top? Is like practice what he's telling you over and over and over again. And it's like, then you could get there. So it's like, it's kind of one of those things. It's also like a matter of location and like money. And so it's like, there's guys you would love to train with, but may not have it. Or there's guys who are like very, very good, who do it professionally, that you could honestly get the most for your money and the most for your particular skill set. So
yeah,
it's very, very difficult to say on what's what. So just do what the Timmy's doing. Give anybody who has a good Instagram account $500. You'll be fine there.
It seems totally legit. What are your thoughts on silicone carbide? I'm thinking of doing this to my Gen 5 G17 after talking to people about stippling it over a frame.
It's fucking amazing.
Let's see.
Kenny's
that's silicone carbide. It works really great. I think the biggest thing you have to decide is what grit you're comfortable with. Some people go with a lower grit. I think it was the 6090.
Robert
because
what they call the woman's grit.
I did. I will very freely admit that like I tried who was it, Dirk Hopkins, and I'm like, ouch, this hurts my drafter's hands. I can't do this. And so I found something that was lighter that still worked. Honestly, I am a wuss, and like trying to grab onto that grip. I'm like, this is cutting my hand.
Well, that's like, then you like, because I would stipple a bunch of guns, but anyways, like you take your hand off, and then all you see is the dead skin and the porous texture of all the stuff. It's like, gee whiz, that sure seems to be taking a lot of my hand with it. It's just like, yep. The only issue I would have is like this HK45. I would love to have like a silicone carbide grip because it's got kind of a slick grip. The problem is with this gun is that the grip's already large enough with the trigger to double action for me to get my finger exactly where I want it on the trigger. So like, it definitely works on on a gun that you have room to play around with as far as trigger reach to get what you want. And then if you have like a lot of room, like if you have a lot of these smaller polymers or STI frames, you actually get to have the ability to build up into spots where you want it. So it's great.
That's actually one of the cooler things. Like Kevin's gun yesterday, he actually took the time to, and I don't know how he did it, but he basically molded that grip on his Canic to his hand. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, when you actually get your hands on the thing, you're like, yeah, this thing was decidedly fit to a person's hand, which is not too shabby. I have no idea how they did it. They probably used like JB Weld or something to create the form.
Yeah,
And then
Saul
they
Kirsch
just...
used to do it a lot back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I think Saul Kirsch still does it, but yeah.
Okay.
So how, if like you've changed your mind, how easy is this to remove, Kenny?
I don't know. I've had to remove it once, and it wasn't bad.
So
Off of plastic or metal? What you just
It was
chipped
off
off?
plastic. No, I just used a grinding wheel on a Dremel.
did it get to a part where you could kind of peel it, or did you just basically have to grind it all off?
Once you get the carbide off, the epoxy will come off okay with the screwdriver.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But that's all I run on all of my guns. And as far as like you were saying, Tom, like I've had to shave a lot of parts on like locks. I have to shave a lot of material so it still fits my hand right. But use good epoxy and then use like 32 to 45 grit silicone carbide.
Is that the number that men use?
Yeah. Well, no, I'll give you shit, Robert. That's what I use, but I've done a lot of other people's, and I've ran 60-90 on theirs as well.
Yeah, so the epoxy that I use, it's just the Loctite stuff, but it's probably worth saying, like, I use the 2-hour stuff, and I use the 2-hour stuff because that's what Kenny recommended, and the reason he recommended it is it gives you time to work with it, and you'd be surprised how much work actually needs to be done sometimes to get it all into the proper place, and then to like fix it when you kind of got a little bit too careless with it. The 2 hours, I think that was the perfect way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I use the same stuff, the 2-hour 2-stage Loctite epoxy.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So you can't see it if you're watching the thing. It's from Loctite. It's the marine stuff. You get it at your local Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever. It doesn't really matter.
There's not a bad product Loctite makes. They don't make a bad product, those people.
Well, they do when you're trying to get it undone.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the part. That's the part with it. Blowtorch may be needed.
Let's see. So we talked about, let's see, from Ruben Garcia, how many Super Squad had frame weights? I mean flashlights. I don't know of anyone that did, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then let's see, last question. At what point does it make it not worth it to go to a local match that you know will just be stand and shoots? That was Nationals,
sounds
by the
like
way.
fun to me.
Did you guys see all the stages for Nationals? Was that not like the most potato of all potato matches in the entire world? I mean,
that or what was it, like 16 that was all the new classifiers?
Yeah, that was probably worse. But for crying out loud, they sit here and they say they don't want some circle jerk club match, and then they put down this Nationals that is like, go stand in this box, shoot some things. Go stand in that box, shoot some more things. Congratulations, you finished the stage. Yeah, that's embarrassing. I mean, that's my opinion, but that's really kind of bad when your premier match of the year is IDPA light.
No, I would say IDPA would be much more dynamic.
The premier match of the year.
Well, that's what they make claims for it to be.
At least when you go to an IDPA sort of match, you're going to have a lot of prone, a lot of kneeling, and props.
This is true.
But most of those IDPA matches are never like stand and shoot. They're like literally like moving around.
For the people who are shooting IDPA, going prone is probably not happening so much anymore, which is why they say, your last position can be prone. But if those old boomers have to get up, it ain't gonna happen.
Any time with the first thing is like, even when you see like a USPSA, like a place where you have to go pro, you're like, how do I do that last? Is it competitive enough for me to do that last? And then when the answer is like no, you're just like, okay. Okay, how can I do this first? Like, there's always the whole thing of like when you're going pro, no matter what you're doing, it's like you never want to do it. It's a pain in the ass to get into. It's a pain in the ass to get out of. It's just like
just from a time perspective, the amount of time that it takes to get down and then get back up. It's the getting back up that you've then got to recover all that time out of.
The 2 times I've hurt myself, like had to take a break in USPSA, is going prone and just like, because it's never like you're gonna get in there slow. You like put your hand down, you kick out, and I just bounce my testicles off the ground and then shoot some targets. Like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. It's dumb.
I was down in St. George. They had a low port, and I hit that thing so damn hard. I could feel like my knee pop.
Yeah, well,
And
it's not like there's
I
like
was just like, I got done. And I'm like, I'm gonna need a second to get back up here.
yeah, it's not like it's a flat surface with field turf. It's literally it's like, oh yeah, this part of the range has been pretty worn down. Well, here's like you can feel some of the bedrock underneath this. You're like, oh great.
Well, no, the funny thing was, I mean, at that particular one, by the time we actually got to it, that thing had been so worn down from everybody flopping into the dirt that basically you could just stand there and just shoot it without going prone.
Was this one of those Nationals last in subs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended on that stage. And I took a rock right in their freaking ribs. And I was like, I'm happy it's my last stage.
Yeah,
It's done.
I don't know what that rock material is, but whatever it was, my knee hit that thing, and I was just like, I mean, even as you're like hitting the ground, you're just like, oh dear sweet heaven, this is not going to end well.
Well, hopefully this ends well. Thank you for listening, downloading, subscribing. We appreciate it. Steve Koski had to make a business trip, so he couldn't join us tonight. So Steve's not here. Like we miss him. That's why he's not here. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for heading over to Telegram and being a part of the conversation. Thanks for going to Patreon, giving us $1 a month, getting a longer, uncensored version of the show. Thank you for checking out our sponsors, Dominate Defense and GallantBolts.com. And for Robert Wyatt and Kenny Terry, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Toot-toot.
I got through that one this week. How smooth was that? I was even like making eye contact with my son. I'm professional. Here we go. Big brain.
That's legit.
Legit. And I did it all without a 10-ounce light. That's what I did. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.